Welcome back to part 26 of Final Fantasy XII, where today we'll be continuing our journey across the Fire Coast into the Sheeta Uplands, working our way towards the cave palace that we'll be exploring next part. But firstly, we got this hunt that we can turn in because we've only just passed it, so going back to it's not too bad. And if you go all the way back to Bajurba, because now it's the dry season, you can turn in this ring that you found a while ago that I said, oh, remember that side quest? I think it was very early on. We did a side quest and it resulted in us getting a ring, and it's like, oh, I wonder who it belongs to. It actually belongs to the elder of the village, so if you go back to it during the dries, you can hand it to her. Which is just the next step of the side quest, and I end up not actually going any further with it, but I just wanted to show that that is there if you're interested and want to try and follow that path a little bit more. But that being said, we're back on the Fire Coast and exploring the last chunk of land we've yet to before persevering into the next gargantuan zone on our trek to Arcadia. There is an exclusive enemy that is in this specific zone of the map that we'll be bumping into in a sec, that if you're going for the bestiary you do want to get, and thankfully I get lucky enough that it does appear. There it is. I don't think it's rare game per se, but it does like sometimes just not spawn. So I count it as a bit of a luck if I do get it to appear. For all the T-Rex based enemies you should be fine against now. We're long past the point of it being dangerous, especially with all the elite gear we got last time. Even without it we'd still be pretty strong, but with it, Ash is doing insane physical damage right now. There's also a diamond sword you can pick up there, but this isn't Minecraft, so it's a piece of shit. I say that, it's good if you're sticking with swords, but if you've got a foe breaker, the hammerhead you should have by now is just going to be stronger. And you might have noticed that the level difference between our three party members is nowhere near as wide as it used to be. I haven't really mentioned it, but over the past few parts, I've been balancing out the use of the double experience token, like the double experience accessory, to try and get everyone to a closer level. The main reason being is that we are soon going to encounter level-based skills. And what I mean by this is that there are skills that will only affect you if your level is a multiple of whatever number it lists. So if it says if it says level 3 break, the break will only connect with you if your level is a multiple of 3. And so you want everyone to be around the same level so it becomes easier to adjust to. But at the same time, like, if you're not prepared to kind of go into a fight, find out what level number spell they got, quit, and then go alter your levels to adjust, your alternate best bet is to instead do the opposite of what I'm doing and just have everyone be slightly different levels, so then there's only a chance of it affecting one of you. Maybe it'll avoid 2 of you. Unless it's a level 2 spell, in which case just make everyone odd numbers for God's sake. But the reason why I'm preparing for it now is that although we've still got a little while before it becomes a thing, the first instance we'll be having of it, the enemy has a level 2, a level 3 and a level 4 spell. And I'm going to be making sure my characters fit on just the perfect level to avoid all 3. Which isn't for a little while. We're talking when I'm at level 52, I go after a hunt that has all 3 of them, so I level them up once, because 53 isn't a multiple of 2, 3 or 4. So I knew I would be safe if I got them to there. But having everyone around the same level just works in my favour. It ends up working against me though late game, because I know I'm jumping ahead quite heavily here. By the way, there's a shortcut that takes you right here if you decide to go through it, and it's 2-way, so you can go back there if you so want. You can shortcut around the Fine Coast pretty easily for how big of an area it is, which is pretty handy. But there's an area later on where I just keep on getting unlucky with one of my members dying just as an enemy dies, so they don't get the experience. And it eventually results in them being, like, although still being the same level as everyone else, everyone else levels up before them, kind of thing. But that's not until much later on. We're talking borderline post-game, because I've just, like, finished the last piece of the recording. I've taken down everything I want to do and recorded everything I want to show. I know how big this project's going to be, and because a lot of it is edited now, so I know round about where it's going to be. And we are pretty well ready for the rest of this. So assuming no virus comes and overtakes me and like drags me through hell, I should be good. That being said, as soon as I finish recording this, I'm planning on cleaning the whole house because it's overdue. Like, there's like dust in the corners above, like things like these skirting poles and such. It's like, it needs to be done. So as soon as this finishes up, the whole house is going to get a clean down. So if I catch some dormant flu that's been sitting in the dust for like months, then I might be in trouble. But that being said, as you push up here, you finally make it to the Sheeter Uplands. The last open zone before Arcadia. We're finally getting there. It's not the very last proper zone before Arcadia. After this, we've got a cave palace, and we've got Old Arcadia, which is like a rundown, almost homeless ruins of what Arcadia was before it became the super city that was built on top of it. And then we're in Arcadia. So we still have a little ways to go, but we're getting there. Like I said, Act 2, in terms of just new areas, is probably the chunkiest because you're constantly moving and finding new zones and areas. But at the same time, the Sheeter Uplands isn't as interesting as Fire and Coast. And at this point, if you have, especially if you haven't been doing side quests and you've just been going, you've been going potentially hours now. Especially if you're playing it on the original Final Fantasy XII. This fucking drags on the original 12. It really does. Like I said, there's nothing interesting in the Sheeter Uplands itself. So this area drags and has really poor pacing compared to the Fire and Coast, which at least had a cutscene in the middle to split it up. And so more on original 12, but I still feel it on here. You burn out a little. You do. Like, the reason why I recorded so far ahead is because I actually took a break after I did this zone, because it just takes the life out of you exploring this place. Also readjust a couple. What am I gonna do? Oh no, I adjust to Aqua. Interesting. I'm guessing because the enemy I was fighting was weak to water, and because it's a flying enemy, Bash can't hurt it. We don't have telekinesis. Well, I say that even when we get telekinesis, I made the unfortunate discovery that the two jobs I chose for Bash don't get telekinesis, which I think is wild, because didn't Vossler have telekinesis? And wouldn't you count him as either a knight or a foe breaker? Like, how come I can't get it? But then there's a few skills like that. It's more so techniques and actual like magic where I sit there and I go, why can't they get that? Like some I completely get it. Like Ash is a red battle mage, she's not a white mage. So the fact that when we get like Curaja and Renew and Arise and Sunaga, Protectiga and Shelga, I can't use them because my white mage is Penelo. And that's very problematic because Protector and Shelga especially. Protect is resistance to physical damage. Shell is the same but with magic damage. Protectiga and Shelga is the whole party in one. Do you know how helpful that is? Arise it will get someone back from death and restore them to full health in one usage. That's extremely helpful. Curaja heals the entire party for insane amounts of health, and Renew will fully restore any individual member. And I can't use any of them because the red mage only goes so far. I get to expand it a little bit with the Espers we get expanding her magic range, but only by so much. Like, thankfully I managed to get the right Espers to get her the tier 3 black magic spells, so she's more useful as a combat usage. But shit, man. Like, the only saving grace is that she gets full access to arcane magic, so she'll get Darker and Darker. And Darker especially is amazing in the right circumstances. She'll get access to Death, which, although almost never connects, is an instant kill if it does, and we'll get access to Ardor. And Ardor is the closest you're going to get to a tier 4 fire spell in this game. Because Ardor does massive fire damage. And the game, similar to if you played Persona, the game uses its wording to give away its tier, like what tier level it is. Like it'll be say small, moderate, heavy, or massive. Massive is tier 4, and it will say massive fire damage. And so Ardor is the closest you're getting to Fire Azure in this game. And Ardor's just great. Like in any walkthrough ever, Ardor, and they will tell you that Ardor becomes your best friend if you can inflict oil on someone. If you can find any way, shape or form to inflict oil on your enemy, and then follow it up with Ardor, you're gonna hurt them big. They're gonna really fucking feel it, and that's pretty much the only reason why you get a tier 4 fire spell and no other tier. Well, other than healing, but that's because it works differently. Like, that's literally the only reason. It's because of oil. It's because of the status condition that they can use. Be wary of this gator. It has reflects on it, and the bastard will happily like send back anything you have at it then. Sorry if I don't have that much to say. I just really don't find the shooter uplands interesting. It's one of those things, like, do you remember when I was playing Death End Request, when I was showing off the pain area and the last 5, like the 5 proper parts of the project, and I just ended up writing a list of things to talk about and just worked my way through that list? I might have to do something similar for some of the bigger zones coming up, or bigger bosses coming up. There's 2 bosses, there's actually, I say that, 3 different bosses that are all one video because they're really fucking long boss fights. One of them is actually only only a little away from us. Like, I think it's part, depending on the editing, obviously, it might be either part 29 or part 30. It's looking like it's going to be an entire part dedicated to one boss fight. To be fair, I'm looking forward to it. It's the only one of the full part boss fights I'm really looking forward to, because the other 2 just fucking drag. The other 2 are optional bosses that if you've played 12 before and tried to 100% it, you already kind of know what I mean by they drag. I will be showing off Omega as well. I know I've mentioned it before, but I will show off Omega. It's just I have no intention of beating it because like, you have to be extremely specific on what you're doing to try and kill it, and it stops being fun very quickly. But I am absolutely open to encouraging you guys to follow along to show. So I will show you exactly how to get to it, and I've written a list as well with very detailed instructions of how to get there, because it's a maze to get there. And there's a lot of prerequisites you need to do before it will even allow it. But I will show you exactly how to get there and exactly how to get back out afterwards, regardless of whether you win or lose. And then I'll just leave it up to you guys to sort it out amongst yourselves. If you want to take it on, you're welcome to, but I've no interest because the reward's not worth it. Not anymore, it isn't. In the original 12, maybe at a very, very far stretch. Because I've mentioned it several times before, but there's an item called the Worm Hero Blade. And to get the Worm Hero Blade, you need 3 specific medallions that you need to sell to a shop, and then it will become part of a loot. The 3 medallions is clear every single hunt in the game, including the ultimate super boss hunt, defeating Omega, and finishing off every single rare game creature. Here's a peculiar thing you have to pick up along your way. If you go down here, you get a build for a hunt that isn't a real hunt. And as the game says here, it's like, it's not official, won't be added to the clan primer. It is just a really fucking weird little thing that you can do. But pick it up, because it will make the next area the Soshine. Is it Soshine or Sohine? Like, do you pronounce the C, or... I've always said Sohine, but I always feel like that's wrong. But the Sohine Cave Palace is up ahead, and in there is going to be a peculiar mini-boss that we'll be taking on to do for this fake hunt that this Arcadian Wayfarer is offering us. But the previous people he sent to try and do it failed miserably, and one of them is just kind of dossing next to us, scratching his belly. And we'll get our key into the cave palace so we can access it. So you do actually have to pick this up. My bad. I thought this was optional, but no, you do have to actually, it is actually mandatory. You need to pick this up. There's also a save crystal right next to him. Not an orange one though. If you want to find the orange one, it's actually dead north. This is the southern save crystal, but there's a northern one if you circle round that you can find that has the orange save crystal. And I'm glad it's the northern one that has it, because although there is a hunt closer to the blue one, the orange one's just closer to every zone. So if you need to get to a specific spot in the cave palace or in the coast from it, it's easier to go to that one. One thing I end up putting on Balthier as well, not until much later on, is when he gets a Stager, I make it so he always has a Stager on the team, just so then that little bar will fill up twice as fast. I don't know if it's exactly twice as fast, but it's nigh on twice as fast. And to be fair, if you've played Final Fantasy enough, you already know haste is helpful. Haste can really make a difference sometimes, and just being able to get an extra attack in before the enemy does something, or an extra heal in just before you eat shit. Or recovering from an enemy's white wind or some shit in Final Fantasy IV before they capitalize on the fact that you now have less than 10 health. Did you remember White Wind? Does anyone remember White Wind from Final Fantasy IV? But the skill that would like terrify the life out of you. But when you got it yourself, you'd just grind that one dragon in the giant and just like skyrocket in levels because of it. The way White Wind works is that it can never kill you. White Wind can never kill you, but if it connects with you, it will always reduce your health to single digits. So your health will be anywhere between 1 and 9, and that's it. White Wind was fucking terrifying because of that. Like, you'd get hit and your entire party would now only have 9 health, and you'd be like, ah, and you'd just have like roses suddenly like panic heal everyone. Hell, you might even have Cecil join in, even if his white magic is useless. Same reason why I didn't give Barsh it, because as I mentioned before, like, even though I could have given Barsh a little bit of white magic because of one of the Espers we defeated, I decided against it because I knew it would become the same vein as the white magic Cecil has in 4, where it's worthless. Like, where you'd have it for a little while, but then afterwards it would lose its luster and become a waste of time. There is white magic available to Barsh that is on the edge of the Knight's thing that one of the Espers will get us to that is pretty cool, because there's one that grants us the ability to cast Bravery and Faith, and those two, Bravery boosts your attack damage and Faith boosts your magic damage, obviously temporarily, but they can be really helpful. Having Barsh just throw down Faith on Ash while she's spamming magic makes a difference, or if magic isn't working, just casting Bravery on himself and then just going to town helps. But that's not until much later on anyway. I guess we'll be working our way through here. Oh, by the way, that green circle means shell. So they are taking reduced damage from magic, but our equipment is boosting our stats a bit too much that they don't really stand a chance regardless. But I guess while we're going through the Sheeter Uplands, and it's a very boring area, it's a shame that this area immediately follows Fire and Coast, because Fire and Coast is so fun and this area is so boring. So I should probably try and talk about other stuff that's going on, because as of this recording, I'm in the UK. So if you're watching in the US, by the time you wake up to watch this, because it's probably like during the middle of the night now, by the time you wake up to watch this, the PS5 might have just officially been announced, because I think it's like 9 AM on the West Coast. I don't know. I don't know my time zones in the US. I'd have to look at it. But in the UK, it's 5 PM. So it's like it's a lot later in the day, annoyingly. But I am curious. I'm getting it no matter what, because the games I care about are on it. Like, I don't care about specs, and I really don't give a shit about console war. I'm tired of fucking console war. I was tired of it when I was a 10-year-old. I don't care what console is better. I don't care what console is stronger. Play video games and enjoy them with your friends. That's all I care about. Enjoy them with yourself, enjoy them with your friends, and just enjoy them. The video game industry is amazing, and dividing it up for over petty reasons is just not worth it. But here's the other save crystal, and you can find the other Wayfarer. I'm curious, actually. I've never done it. I've always ended up going south first, because I guess it's just my attitude of travelling. I always go along the southern border first. But if you go to him first, I'm curious to know if he would offer you the hunt instead of the other dude. Because these two are together, they are tied to the same hunt. Just one tailed this guy and the dude tailed the other. I'll have to try and check that out, or see if I can find anything online. But it's such an obscure little thing that I doubt I'll find anything. It's not like some games where it's like... I think this is because Final Fantasy XII is not as popular as other Final Fantasies. So it's not like some games where it's probably like excruciatingly clever little details that would help, that people would highlight and like highly highlight. I can imagine something like that would be ignored. Which is a shame, because 12's painfully detailed. Like, to an almost exaggerant extent. Like, the game kind of almost like flexes in front of you just how much hidden shit it's got in this game. Like, it's kind of insane. Like, if you start looking into optional little things you can do in Final Fantasy XII, you open up a fucking rabbit's hole that seems to go on for miles. The amount of times where it's like, oh, and then you can find this little thing, but it also requires you need this. And you're like, what the fuck are you on about? And then you look up that thing, and it's like, oh, but if you do this, and this that the game almost never tells you about, you can fight this super secret boss, and then you can get this super secret thing that will allow you to do the rest of that side quest. And you're like, what the hell are you on about? Or if you go into a room 500,000 times, save the game, start again, click on, like, get to this first save point at Rex, reload the save, and then open an invisible fucking treasure chest, there's a 5% chance you'll get the strongest weapon in the game. And you're like, why? Why do that? I know the invisible weapons are more supposed to be Easter eggs than anything else, but seriously, like, because off screen I've been going for the invisible weapons myself, because if I can get literally any of them, I kind of want to see if I can squeeze it in, like right at the very end of the project, saying this is what an invisible weapon is like, and this is how powerful it is. But I have a better chance of getting a shiny Pokemon than I do actually getting it. The odds of getting it normally without abusing RNG is not happening. But I want to try and see if I can get it legit, because the RNG manipulation is so painfully precise, so I'm like, do I even want to do that? I don't know, I just find it a little bit daunting, especially because there's fucking 3 of them. The main one I'm trying to go for is the strongest of the 3, the bow, because if I'm only going to go for one, I want to get the one that matters. And the beauty of the invisible weapons is because they're super secret, they're not tied to any license, so anyone can equip them. And the bow has such an insanely high damage rate with it, that if you give it a good arrow as well, you can use it full advantage and abuse things. And what's even more ridiculous is that because the weapon's invisible, you can't see your own arrow, right? So they even address that by having a secret spot on the map that just has an arrow hanging from a tree, and whatever arrow is hanging from that tree is the arrow you've got equipped for your invisible bow. That's what I mean by absolutely ludicrous extra secrets that are just like, you just go down a fucking near endless rabbit hole of like, why? It just goes on. But at the same time, I kind of love it, because it adds so much mystery. There's so many little things. Like back when this game first came out, I remember chatting with it with my mates at the time, even if I didn't like it that much. And like my friend would find something I hadn't found and wouldn't have never heard of or never thought to check. But I was the first one of my mates to find a way into the Boheim Passage. Like, I discovered the side quest and managed to do it on my own thing to get back into the Boheim Passage, because we all knew there was something in there, and there was another hunt in there, and we just couldn't get in there. Like, things like that. Like, a friend of mine was the first one to find the Geomancer after getting 10 Espers to get into the second half of the Hen Mines. None of us found Omega back in the day. No, Omega I only found out about. To be honest, it was 6 or 7 parts into recording this project I found out about Omega, because I was just double checking a lot of things like what I want to do, and then I happened to stumble across Omega Mark 12, and I was like, Omega's in 12? I don't remember him being in 12. And then I looked into it and realised just how hidden away he is. It's like I keep saying I'll get into more later, it's just because it's in a dungeon I don't want to spoil. But even then, like, there's things that are so hidden away. Blind goes there, by the way. That's a great spell. Try and cast blind on the entire party, on the enemy party. Not that it really works. Like some status conditions you learn pretty quickly to not really use. Like the most helpful one you'll be putting on enemies more often than not is slow. Just more so just to counter the fact that a lot of them late game will start casting haste on themselves. So being able to grind that off and just slow them right down can help tremendously. Poison sometimes. Disease is for like one boss fight and that's it, and it's not even in the main game. It's floor 100 of trial of the trial mode. Reverse, in very situational circumstances, can be helpful. Like there's a hunt we'll be doing later on against an enemy called Death Gaze, and that's death as in dying and gaze as in G-A-Z-E, not gaze as in a sexual preference. But Death Gaze, like when he's nearly dead, fully restores his health and casts reverse on himself. If you have renew, you can end the fight then and there. And it's like things like that. If you, reverse can actually be a really helpful tool against your enemy as well, and they won't realise it. If an enemy casts reverse, renew will kill them. Well, it won't kill them. Renew will bring their health to 1 HP, and then anything afterwards will kill them. So literally, that's the thing. If an enemy uses reverse, and you have someone who's got a full range to white magic, best thing I can recommend is renew and then follow it up with either cure or a potion, because both of them will do more than 1 damage because of the reverse in effect, and will end their fight immediately. And the fact that it fucking works on bosses, if they cast reverse, it doesn't matter how strong the boss is, you can end it in 2 actions. Makes having a white mage pretty strong, and me not having a white mage in my party pretty miserable. Especially because I always, when I was recording this, I had every intention, more so in post-game, of grinding up my backup party as well. Like getting Varn, Fran and Penelo to a, not all the way to like a really high level, but to a sensible enough level to just function as backup. We're talking like level 60 for like post-game stuff. But I end up never doing it, because I never found the need to. Like, I thought I'll just carry on, and if there's a situation where it feels like I'm at a brick wall, then I'll just commit to it and get it done. But it never happens. I don't know whether it's just because I got really lucky with a few bosses. Like, I think luck was a part of it in a couple instances up ahead. But more often than not, just the strategy I had with the team I've got is wide enough to just get what we need done. You're playing base 12, this isn't a problem, because in base 12 there isn't no job choice. Everyone gets access to everything. So everyone will eventually have Renew and Arise and Starga and Protectga and Shelga and all that stuff, and Scathe, not just Barsh in our instance because he's part Black Mage. And that's the thing, like, I know not that many people watch it, and the ones that do don't necessarily always want to comment, except for random bots, I fear. Like, there's a, I want to say it's a bot, but there's someone who, like, he comments the exact same thing on almost every single video, and I've removed most of them now. And if it is actually a genuine person, I'm so sorry, but you literally just put great video on every single video I make, and it's not only my video, it's every video I ever watch online. If I scroll down to the bottom, I find it, leading me to assume you're a bot. But if you're not a bot, I'm so sorry, but I'm pretty sure you are, and that's like the only comment I get. And I'm not ungrateful, don't worry. I'm just a small dude playing it because I enjoy it. But if any of you are watching and do want to get involved, I'll always welcome it. I always appreciate it. Especially because I'm curious to see what other people who played Final Fantasy XII, what jobs you chose. If you used your whole party of 6, or whether you only used a party of 3 like I'm doing. What jobs you chose, whether you liked those choices, whether you wanted to change them. What you thought of my choices, if I made a good one or a bad one. And just things like that. I would love to hear things like that. Especially because, as you've probably noticed, at least over like the past year or so, this channel, in terms of my Let's Plays, leans a lot more into bigger projects now than it ever used to. Which is something that I always wanted to do. It was just nerves. Like when I first started doing YouTube videos, I wasn't confident that I'd be able to keep up with a big project. And at the time, it proved true. If anyone's been around since like 2015, you'll know for a fucking fact I was hideous with my upload schedule. Especially through college, because I went through a really, really tough time of college, just taking a lot of abuse, essentially, and it just didn't go well. And the fact that I passed and got through to the other side is a miracle, because I really wasn't in a good headspace on the other side of it. And it just grinded everything to a halt, and it wasn't until after I was out of college that I kind of took a breather. Because it was after Uncharted 2, I think, is when I finished college, that I took a breather, sat back, reconfigured my entire game plan pretty much, and just cracked on to see where it would take me. And I've been pretty consistent. Look, I don't want to say I was completely consistent, but I've been a lot more consistent ever since I took that breather and came away. The only thing is that I know some of my breaks go on a bit longer than they should have, but at the same time, I kind of needed it after Death End. When you keep in mind, I went from Final Fantasy 15 to Neptunia V2R to Death End Request with not that much in between, like very small things or nothing in between in some cases. I was kind of burnt out because they were 3 big projects, so I just needed some time away. And when I came back, the first thing I did was reboot Tomb Raider. Which, speaking of, I am kind of tempted to do Rise of the Tomb Raider next. Nothing's set in stone yet because this project's still nowhere near far enough for me to have actually considered what I want to do next. But I am kind of tempted to do something to that kin next, because I do want to cover the whole reboot trilogy of Tomb Raider at some point, just because I do think they get better as it goes on. Even if Shadow has problems, Shadow I still think is the best one of the 3. Like, Shadow was just held back by time constraint, it felt like, and the hideous crunch. Although I say that, I haven't read anything saying there was a crunch. It just feels like there was a crunch, and if that's the case, then I've never been happy about that, and I hate the fact that people are defending Naughty Dog now for Last of Us 2 having it, and pretending that it's a good thing that they're getting overly stressed and overly worked just to make your pretty movie look a bit nicer, because that's all it's going to be fucking be. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm sure Last of Us 2 will have its crowd and be fun in its own way, but it's just a glorified movie. Yeah, it's not. You know, I know I say that playing Final Fantasy 12, the least interactive Final Fantasy in the series in terms of it, but it really is. You do so little in that game, and what you do is so heavily grounded in quote-unquote realism, forgetting that it's a fucking video game, and what makes the video game industry beautiful is the escapism from reality. But I don't know. It infuriates me. It genuinely does. In the same way that it wound me up that people were complaining that Horizon Zero Dawn's no longer going to be a PS4 exclusive. And it's like, what, are you fucking insane? I wholeheartedly support games becoming more available to other people. More people can then play the game you love. You should be happy for that. If you're really going to be that arsey about it, you didn't deserve it in the first place. Also, we get stone bolts which have a chance to cast disable, and you're going to see the game fight me to unequip it later on, and I refuse. Later on we get a bolt that does more damage than it, but doesn't cast disable, and for that reason alone I keep the bolt we've got on, because disable means the enemy can't attack if it connects, and yeah, it doesn't always connect, but that is beautiful. And so of course I'm going to try and go for it every chance I get. Because so for one, I'm really happy Horizon Zero Dawn's coming to PC. I don't have a PC strong enough to play it, but I'm really happy that the devs are getting their game more out there, because it was criminally underrated. Another game I'd love to see stop being a PlayStation exclusive just before this video ends and become more open is both the Gravity Rush games. They're so underrated. I haven't finished either of them, admittedly, but I did love what I played of them, and they deserve more attention and love. But that being said, I'll have to continue this discussion next time, because we're about to go into the Solheim Cave Palace. So next time on Final Fantasy 12, we'll finally finish our trek up to Arcadia. But until then, you guys take care now.